Hello and welcome to Real Estate Development Lend to Legacy podcast.
Real estate development.
We're super excited about our inaugural series of episodes dedicated to real estate development. We're going to be talking to lots of professionals connected to real estate who will be sharing their stories, their experiences, successes, and failures. And today we're joined by Abdullah Abunasrah, who pivoted from buying cars to launching a company called Prosway to help people who are new to real estate. His goal is to make real estate easy to understand by giving people the information and help they need to buy their first properties. Abdullah, welcome.
Thank you, bud. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So tell me about Prosway. What is it?
It's an online marketplace for investors. Basically, it opens the platform up for anyone to list their properties. It takes about 2 minutes. Anybody, seller, realtor, or wholesaler, can take some pictures of their property and do a brief description about it and upload it on the website. And basically what it does, it gives access to a bunch of investors, like current investors, to go in there, basically check out the property if it fits their buy box and underwrite it in less than 60 seconds is the catch. And we provide all the data that we see fit for the property. And if they're interested, they can submit an offer, and all it does is it opens a line of communication between the seller and the buyer. And basically what happens is that if they negotiate and agree to a price on their own, they pick a closing company on their own, and we stay out of the deal completely. And what happens is that if they close, the seller pays us $1,000 for advertising and finding a buyer for the property. So that's what we do.
Interesting. So it's an alternative to a typical MLS listing, or is it meant to live parallel to a typical real estate listing?
It's its own thing. It's direct investments. It's only investments. We're targeting only investments and fix and flips, basically. And we also walk new investors that aren't currently investing in real estate. Typically, people that have like $50,000 or $100,000 parked in a savings account, or people that have $50,000 to $100,000 in equity that they could tap into and get like a home equity loan and go and actually buy their first investment property if they want to. So it's just investment only. If you're interested in investing, it's a good platform to get on, kind of see your options, see what's available in the market today. And if you find something you like, it's a good opportunity to get your foot in the door and actually see what you need to see and kind of see the process. And you can hire us too for $1,000. We'll walk you through your first deal from A to Z, basically, from finding the deal to closing on the deal, to fixing it, to actually getting it rented and whatever, or sold. So we're trying to get more people into real estate as our target.
That's awesome. So it's an online marketplace where sellers can list their properties, and then investors would go specifically to buy an investment property.
Yeah, pretty much.
Excellent. Interesting. And so what made you decide that Prosway was needed? What was the driving force there?
Man, whenever I got into real estate 8 months ago, it was a mess. It was like the amount of time. I'm a big time guy. To me, time is way more valuable than money, than honestly anything else in the world. So whenever it takes me a full 5 minutes to underwrite a deal just to find out if it's even a good deal or not, that kind of killed me. That kind of killed it for me. And I realized that was a big hiccup that the real estate market had. And two, the amount of like little fees and commissions that come in place whenever someone is trying to sell a deal, like wholesalers, you find out that after, you locked in the property, after you did everything, that these wholesalers actually made 40 grand off of you or 35,000 off of you. And your total spread was going to be like 20,000. So it just, and then also a big hiccup is that I like direct to seller. I like being involved, with the seller and meeting them and finding out certain things and asking certain questions. And that's basically how I came up with Prosway. Is just if I were to put a bunch of people on a platform to where they can sell their product or sell their house, and I had a bunch of buyers that need to buy or invest their money and write it off or whatever, how would I do it? How would I serve rich people or investors, basically? And this is kind of what we came up with. So it's we're just trying to clean the single family home industry up as far as investment properties.
Interesting. So the time to underwrite the deal was your first motivator, And then it sounds like you also wanted to eliminate a bunch of middlemen and streamline the process, eliminate unnecessary commissions. So you're taking the realtors away, right?
You can say so. Realtors do list on the platform, though. I mean, not everybody is capable of getting online. The average population is not intelligent enough to kind of get on this platform and see the fine lines and figure out what's actually going on. So they need a realtor involved. So realtors will never really go out of the equation. As far as investment properties, though, realtors cannot take it and list it on the MLS because this is a property that typically needs work.
Right.
And also is certain properties that the seller needs to get out of it. The seller's distressed. The seller's in foreclosure, and they need to sell it in 2 weeks. So if you need to sell a property quickly, and if it has a story, this is the place to sell it on. So that's our catch. Realtors will always need us because there's always a property that has like an AC issue or roofing issue to where they can't sell it to an end buyer because the seller is not going to go fix the roof, and the banks aren't going to approve the loan because the house needs work.
Right.
So there's a lot of properties that realtors get that they cannot sell on the MLS, and we're basically a solution to them too.
Interesting. That's awesome. So, time to underwrite the deal. You were saying if it takes 5 minutes or longer to underwrite the deal, it's way too long. So, Prosway compiles all the data so that the buyer could or investor could open it up, read through it, and know exactly what they're getting into. How are you doing this?
So, the way I work is I buy extreme volume. Whenever I was buying cars, every time I'd sit on a computer, I'd have to buy about 30 to 40 cars. And to do that, I have to see, like, if you're looking at like a list of 100,000 cars or 10,000 cars, instead of opening each one and basically taking the VIN number, copying and pasting it and seeing what it's worth and then seeing what it needs and then seeing whatever, basically what we did is in the listing page, we list the rehab estimate. This is provided by the seller. We list a Prosway estimate. That's what we think the property is worth based off our studies. And then the percent of PMR, which is the percent of the Prosway market report, and that's at the current offer. So basically, it takes you less than 5 seconds to decide if this is a deal that A, has enough rehab for you, or doesn't have rehab, or needs way too much work. 2, it tells you if the spread is decent, if the house has enough spread for it to be worth your time. And C, it tells you that this is the percent. A lot of people want to be at a certain percent out the door, and it kind of throws you that number that at this current offer, this is what the percent of PMR is. And it cuts that, just to get to those 3 points. Before, it would take me about 10 minutes, and it cut it down to 5 seconds. And then if it's a deal you like, once you open the listing, for me, it takes me 15 seconds to 20 seconds. Once you're logged in, it shows you all the comps that we saw. It shows you all the details of the property. Some properties have walkthrough videos, and most properties have a bunch of pictures. And also the other beautiful thing about it is that we have a rehab calculator built into the app. So if you wanted to like make an offer, it basically gives you the capability of putting the offer in the calculator and seeing what your estimated spread would be. And that's including the rehab and including the closing costs provided by the seller. So it's we're just cutting the underwriting down to seconds versus 10 to 15 minutes before.
Cool. And then, so how are the valuations determined? You said you have your own ways to figure out the value. Is it like a Zestimate type of thing, or is it automated, manual? How do you go about that?
It's an automated thing. It's just an algorithm that we set, like a calculator we set in place, that it pulls data from the tax assessor's office. It takes the comps that sold within 10% of the age, 10% of square footage, same bedroom, same bathroom. And then it basically comes up with the algorithm that says this is the average price per square footage for all these properties. And then take that price per square footage, multiply it by the square footage that the property you're selling has, basically. It's not an accurate number every single time, but it's a good idea. It's a good justification that this property should be worth around this price. And we're just saving time once again. None of our numbers are 1,000% accurate, but they're going to be in the ballpark. It's going to be somewhere in the figure.
Interesting. All right. And then, so would you say that this is mostly suitable for fix and flippers? You mentioned rehabs a couple times, or would it also be suitable for rental properties?
So we have three types of buyers. You have your fix and flipper people that need houses at 50 to 60% of ARV. They have the teams ready to go fix these houses. You have your second buyer, which is somebody that wants something light rehab, but wants to put their own tenant in it and wants to buy it at 70 to 80% of ARV. And then you have something that, like a doctor that doesn't have time or doesn't have connections, wants to buy a cash flowing property right off the way. And that's just a property that's fully rehabbed, has a tenant in it already, and is already cash flowing. So once they pay for the property, they start collecting rent on it. So you have three types of buyers that are being targeted off this platform.
Got it. Got it. All right. And is it regional? Is it national? Do you have any limitations right now?
It's a nationwide thing. I mean, we just launched, so we're looking for deals right now. But time tells everything. So over time, once people start getting the word out there, start talking about it, it'll be a much bigger platform, than it is now, obviously. And the goal is that in 12 months we'll have an app launched on the App Store ready to go, so that people can actually start buying and looking at deals so much easier now. So it's got a very bright future ahead, and we're trying to get people on board today so that we can actually start, have some type of income coming in to where we can actually pay for these future projects.
Got it. Nice. And are you developing it in a house? Do you outsource it? How do you put together the team? How do you even go about starting a new? It's basically a software product, right?
It's a software product. It's just a bunch of God blessed me with a bunch of smart friends, a bunch of smart people, and we just kind of got together, and I drew out something on a blank piece of paper and said, "This is what we need to do. This is the data we need to provide." And then we have to have a calculator built into the app. And I was like, "How can we do this, and when can we do it?" And one of my friends was a good web developer, and he basically threw a rough draft together within 2 weeks. And we just kind of started making that rough draft better over time. And, every day we usually get on an hour call and we start talking about, ways to make the website even better. We've already changed it probably 15 times since we launched last week or 2 weeks ago. So we're just consistently making it better, consistently talking to new people, and just consistently getting our name out there as much as possible, and making new friends. That's the way we're working right now.
Nice. So you mentioned you've been in real estate, you said 8 months?
Yeah.
How did that happen? Why real estate? Why? What made you jump from cars to buildings?
Man, the business we have in cars is a family business, and it's doing really good, but it's a business that requires everybody's attention together. So there's no exit strategy. There's no backing off. There's no putting an employee in your place. You can. It's just, it's not going to perform the same way as it does with you. So I needed to figure out a way to kind of back up and do something that would benefit a lot more people and also require a lot less of my attention. And that's kind of how I got into real estate. My first idea was I want to collect passive income. I want to start collecting $10,000 a month in passive income, which honestly, I'm already getting close to it, which is a beautiful thing about it. The assets are still sitting there. They're paying you every single month. They're not going anywhere. Nobody's going to come steal your house and, to take it and run away with it. And once I jumped in it, man, it was just so sloppy. It was honestly so sloppy, the way things were getting done, the way these single family homes are getting bought and sold. So I just I had to do something about it. And I actually designed the app around me. I designed it to where I can get people to fund, to start some kind of fund, and I'll just go in there and just buy a bunch of houses.
Awesome. So what else would somebody who wants to get into real estate need? So it sounds like they could use your app and look up the properties. Underwriting is already done for them. What about financing? How does one go about getting financed?
First-time buyers, there's only so many programs they can use to buy their first investment property. Now, if they have a little home equity, if they have $100,000, $150,000 in home equity, there's certain banks that will actually give them that home equity loan so that they can use it to go buy an investment property. We typically try to recommend that people don't put themselves in sticky situations just to buy a house. You really need to be comfortable whenever you're buying these houses, and you can't rely on it because they're not going to start paying you for at least 3 months, and sometimes it can turn into a 6 month deal. Now, the nice thing about real estate is short term wise, it can be a headache. You can have your fair share of headaches short term wise, but long term wise, no matter how big of a headache you dealt with in those 6 months, it always pays off if you just played it out, waited, fixed all the issues you had, paid the money, asked the right questions, met the right people. It always works out long term because real estate goes up 5% every 5 years. That's an average. That's like a normal rate, and how it's doubled almost in the last 3 years. So it's the people that were in real estate 5 years ago, 6 years ago, have severely benefited just sitting there and parking their cash instead of parking their cash and savings accounts and stuff.
Right.
And as far as this kind of getting through their first deal, man, when I got into it, I'm a guy that I'm not afraid. I'll throw money and see what comes back out of it. It's just a lot of people around me that I tried bringing into real estate. The only thing I noticed that they should do differently is studying, learning, and meeting new people. That's the best way to do it. So that's kind of why we offer the package we offer. We offer to anybody can hire us. Basically, we'll walk them through the deal A to Z for $1,000. And the idea is that you'll get to meet us. We'll get to meet you. We'll introduce you to people, and we'll just consult you throughout the whole process. So that's the difference. That's what I kind of wish I had access to whenever I got into real estate. I wish I had someone to kind of talk to that had the actual experience and ask him, what do you think about this deal? What's the headache that can come from this? What's the long-term pay plan? What's long-term wise? Is this a good deal? And so forth, so on.
Right. So you basically act as a consultant, hold their hands, and introduce them to, I'm presuming, other necessary contacts.
Yeah.
What other types of professionals are involved in a transaction like this?
So you got about 18 different vendors with each house transaction. That's coming from flooring companies, roofing companies, windows, whatever. You got 18 different vendors, and one of them is contractors, which is a big deal. If you have no knowledge in fixing a house, it's always best to have a contractor kind of walk you through the deal. Now, if you're familiar with the process and you're familiar with how the stuff works, then you can just start finding subcontractors to go and do the jobs that you need done. And that's also finding those people is also a little difficult. And real estate attorneys, real estate lawyers, real estate agents, you got title companies, you got a lot of different things that you really need to kind of learn and ask questions about. Property management companies, there's a lot of scams out there with property management companies. There's a lot of funny business that goes on in real estate, so it's always really good to have someone that's kind of been down that road kind of tell you, this is what I went through and this is what you should do and this is what you shouldn't do, just as a kind of a tip.
Right. What about design professionals? Do you typically involve like an architect or designer when you're looking at a property before you decide to rehab it, or just kind of wing it and figure it out as you go along?
Man, I never hired one. I never needed an architect or designer. Whenever you're buying these fix and flips, you're typically not going in and redesigning the whole house. These people need places to live. These people need to pay that little $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 in rent. So you're not going to go in there, and if you do, you're just kind of priming yourself for disaster, if you ask me. You're not going to go in there and do a full gut rehab every single time. You just want to go in there and fix the issues that need to be fixed. At the end of the day, people that pay $1,000 and $1,200 in rent are used to living in houses that are a little older, have problems. The paint's chipping here and there. It's all normal, man. There's no one's expecting a perfect house. Everyone just needs a place to live these days.
Right. Yeah, that's a completely different world than what I'm used to. We're building new, so you can't just show up on a job site and start digging, right? You got to hire your architects, designers, engineers. You got to get your permits. It's going to take 2 years before you even
start building,
put shovels in the ground.
Yeah.
That's an interesting world out there.
Yeah.
And so contractors, so if you don't do it yourself and you're relying on a contractor, then you need to find a GC. So if I'm an investor using Prosway, hiring you to help me out, figure this out, do you have a list of contractors that you could recommend or how do you go about that?
We're building lists of vendors basically that will pay
Mhm.
to market on our website. So
Okay.
once we get that list, and we should have it here in the next week or two, once we get that list going, it'll have access to every vendor, every carpenter, every flooring guy in every
Mhm.
city, or one that serves that city. God willing, that's what we're working on right now. It's a process because there's over 3 million vendors in the country. So
Right.
it's a process. So we're just kind of figuring out who wants to market on our website, who wants to be a part of our platform, and who doesn't. And honestly, it's very difficult to get people to even consider something new because there's so many scams and so many funny stories kind of going out right now. So
Right.
everybody's so scared to even take a phone call these days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine. I can imagine, especially if it's a new company that people haven't heard of before.
It's
Yeah.
automatically a scam.
Right. Exactly.
Whenever Amazon came out, I guarantee you he could barely get anyone to answer the phone. And then now
Right.
people are looking back, like I remember when Amazon called me and told me to use it, look at their software, look at whatever. So
Right.
you got to be open minded, man. That's one big tip I have for people is you have to be open minded and you have to listen to people because not everybody's a scam, not everybody's in it to get you, not everybody's trying to screw you. A lot of people can really benefit by and also benefit you by having a relationship with you. So, and people just don't understand that, man. People don't understand that it takes two to tango. It takes two to basically move forward quicker. It takes two to learn together. It takes two to do everything. So, people should network more, man. That's one thing that's done me so good is networking, talking to people, trying to help, offering quick suggestions, offering quick tips. And I kind of wish people would do that more often, but nobody
Right.
does. Everybody thinks networking is the hardest thing to do.
Right. It definitely takes different personalities, but yeah, I hear you. Got to be open minded.
Yeah,
Listen to people, talk to people, and a lot of people still are afraid to pick up the phone. We live in the digital age, and everything's about text messages, emails, and passive communication.
yeah,
But you're right, active communication, phone calls, meetings, in-person meetings, especially in this world of Zoom calls.
yeah. Well,
I hear you.
Zoom calls are a lot more effective, believe it or not, because you're actually looking at somebody and you're
That's
okay.
true.
This guy's not a scam, He's obviously sitting here talking. He's a nice guy. He's smart, Like you start thinking about things there. But on a phone call, man, it's difficult because as soon as they answer the phone, they're already negative.
Mhm.
Hello, like what? As soon as the first interaction they have is you're bothering me. You're making me go out of my way. So the first 30 seconds of that phone call, if you don't switch that attitude, if you don't switch that perception they have, it's not going to be a successful phone call. And I actually get to the point where if I call somebody, and I call a lot of people, I try to call 100 to 200 people a day. And if that first 5 seconds is a negative interaction, I typically just try to get out of the phone call because
Right.
it's impossible to take someone that's aggravated and make them happy within 30 seconds. And with the short amount of time that I have, I'm not about to spend it trying to convince someone that I'm not a scam. I'm not whatever. These people are already not open minded about things. So I usually give someone 10 seconds to kind of feel them out to decide if I'm going to spend time with you or if I'm just going to hang up and move on.
Right.
And it could cost me in the long term, but it saves me so much time because I've never been able to convert a negative lead. I've never been able to convert someone and I'm not saying I can't. I can, but I'm not about to spend, 10 minutes trying to convert you when I could spend those 10 minutes converting another two or three people. So
Right.
that's the way
Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, that's a perfect segue. I was going to ask you earlier. You told me that you don't pay attention to failures, and my question to you was, how do you stay positive? And I think you just answered it by trying to ignore. Don't let me put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're trying to ignore negative people and focus on positive and keep going. Right.
I do not stop, man. I do not stop. Nothing gets in my way. The way I look at problems, and man, I'm saying this, and I had one of the longest weekends of my life. The Friday and Saturday, man, and it's like subhanallah, it's right before the weekend. It's right before the weekend. Things happen in my life,
Right.
and it was just four just bad situations back to back, and I'm at the point to where everything's a lesson. Every failure, every mistake, every headache is a lesson. Two, don't spend more than 1 hour being mad about something. 1 hour. I'll give myself 60 minutes to be mad about something. And when I'm mad about it, I'm trying to find a way to resolve it. I'm not mad like, oh, my life sucks. I'm so miserable. I'm thinking like, my blood pressure is high. I'm just trying to get over the situation. What do I have to do to unfuck this situation? Basically, how can I salvage whatever it is to be salvaged? And I just, man, it's always worked for me. It's always worked. I don't think about what I'm about to lose. I think about what I'm about to save, and I get through that moment, and then I move on. I keep moving forward. I just let this cloud kind of pass over my, world, and then I'll proceed. And I back off if I feel like I'm getting a little too stressed out. I usually take a little break. I'll smoke. I'll sit down. I'll hang out with my wife, hang out with whoever, and just relax. I'll take it easy. And whenever I'm past that little moment of high blood pressure or being upset, which is normal, man. People, it's feelings. It's okay to kind of get mad. It's okay to get upset. It's just how long are you going to be in that phase is the problem.
Right.
And I don't let myself go past 60 minutes. 60 minutes, it's a rule. I'll be mad about something for 60 minutes. And if I'm mad about something for more than 60 minutes, I'm pumping the brakes and I'm stopping. And I'm figuring out a way to deal with it, and then I'll move on. So I don't count failures, man. Failures are lessons to me. I've failed so many times where I can't even pick 10 failures and tell you about them because I don't know where I would start. But tell me about the 10 lessons I've learned. I'll sit here and talk to you for another 2 hours about them.
Right. Well, give me one, the biggest lesson.
Check for financials. One of my big headaches Friday was HOA is trying to put a lien on my property from a previous owner. And I found out that the HOA was a scam. And they're trying to put a $30,000 lien on one of my properties that I literally just bought. I just closed on a month ago. It's a 6-unit apartment and 6-unit condominium. And I realized that, one, I should have asked for financials from the beginning. So I got myself into that situation. Two, as soon as I noticed there was something funny going on, I should have hired a lawyer right away. And three, it's just no deal is too good to be true. No deal is too good to be true. And I jumped into this deal thinking that I was stealing it. I was getting the deal of a lifetime. And something kept telling me, pump the brakes, think about this for a minute. And I just went all in. I was like, I'll do it. I'll take the deal. And I closed on it. And as soon as I closed on it the next day, I was like, I just got fucked. I just got, something's about to come up and I don't even realize it. And ever since that day, it's just every single day was something new. And then the next day, somebody broke into the complex. Somebody broke in, a squatter broke in and moved in. And then right after that, someone broke into my Blytheville house that's an hour and a half away and stole a sink out of my house, So it's just lessons, man. It's just lessons. And like the Blytheville house, basically, I learned that the inconvenient part about it is that now I have to drive an hour and a half one way to fix it. So now I learned that don't buy houses outside of your reach. If you're going to buy a property, buy it in your city. And if you live in a shitty city and like investment opportunities don't come up the way you want, move to another city or focus on another city and just hire the right people to handle your problems. So it's, and honestly, anybody at least I know, if they kind of went through what I've been going through the last 2-3 months, man, each one of them, would have either gave up or would have sat there and been like, this isn't meant to be true. Just let the deal get foreclosed. Let the deal go away. I want to just restart. I want to start over with something new. I want to sell. I want to do whatever. So it's just, man, being patient. Being patient is the biggest lesson I've ever learned is just be a little patient. Just wait.
Right.
Try to negotiate too. That's another lesson I've learned. Just even if it's a good deal, throw a number out there that's even way lower than what they want and just see what they say. Worst case scenario, they say no, and you can still go and buy the property for whatever price they originally wanted. You're not going to lose a deal because you made an offer. Right. If anything, you're just going to piss them off, but you can still come back and buy the damn thing later. And if it sells, it's just not meant to be. Just move on. There's other deals out there.
Yep. One thing I had a conversation with my kids the other day. I'm like, listen, never negotiate against yourself. If somebody doesn't take your deal, don't just automatically come in and lower your offer.
Yeah.
Have them counter. And if they don't want to counter, well, then you know where you started.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely valuable advice there.
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. Well, I think that's about it for today. Abdullah, thank you very much for joining us. Very interesting business concept that you started with Prosway. I wish you luck. And thanks for valuable tips to real estate investors and those who are getting interested and ready to enter this field.
Sounds good. I appreciate it, bud. It was good talking to you.
All right. Likewise. Thank you.
Building up the team, helping folks to see it through. Prosway showing us the light.